sun was high, casting a warm glow over the ocean's surface. The tranquil sound of waves gently lapping at the shore and the salty scent of seaweed and sand filled the air. With snorkels in their mouths and flippers on their feet, they dove beneath the surface, the cool water enveloping them like a second skin. Schools of glittering fish darted past them, their scales shimmering in the sunlight sleepy haze, as the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold. Kali reveled in the serenity of the ocean, the gentle waves carrying him effortlessly towards the shallows. The water was crystal clear, and he could see the colorful marine life that teemed beneath the surface. Schools of fish darted back and forth, their scales shimmering like 1,000 diamonds in the sunlight. As Kali continued his leisurely swim, he suddenly felt a searing pain on his leg, like a bolt of lightning that jolted him out of his reverie. In an instant, his peaceful morning swim turned into a horrifying nightmare as he looked down to see a bull shark latched onto his leg, its jaws clamping down with crushing force. The predator refused to let go, thrashing wildly and tearing at Kali's flesh and bones with razor-sharp teeth. The once crystal-clear waters now boiled with red, a testament to the gruesome struggle unfolding beneath the surface. Kali's survival instincts kicked in, and he fought back with all his might, refusing to be dragged down into the depths of the sea. He kicked and flailed with his free leg, using it as a weapon against the relentless predator. The sound of flesh tearing and bones breaking echoed in the water as the two battled, a violent struggle for life and death. Despite Kali's resilience, the shark remained unrelenting, its grip on his leg unyielding. The predator was determined to claim its meal and would stop at nothing to do so. The battle raged on, each moment a frantic fight for survival, as the two thrashed and fought in the water. Kali was running out of options, his strength waning as the shark clamped down on his leg. He tried to fight back with punches and pushes, but it seemed futile against the relentless predator. However, with a surge of adrenaline, Kali summoned all of his remaining strength and delivered a powerful blow to the shark's snout. The predator recoiled in pain, its grip on Kali's leg loosening for a crucial moment. Seizing the opportunity, Kali quickly pulled his mangled leg out of the shark's mouth, the pain almost unbearable. But he knew he couldn't give up, not now. Summoning his last courage, he kicked the surprised creature away from him, sending it reeling in the water. It was a desperate move, but it bought him a precious moment of respite. After a fierce battle, the shark finally retreated, disappearing into the murky depths below. Kali was left alone in the water, his body battered and broken, his legs severely mangled. Summoning all of his strength, he managed to swim ashore, but the pain was almost unbearable. Thankfully, another tourist saw him, and he immediately sprang into action using a belt as a makeshift tourniquet to stem the bleeding. It was a small act of... As they swam deeper into the ocean, Sheila's eyes caught sight of something glinting in the sand. It was a scallop, and she knew it was the prize they had come for. The scallops were plentiful in these waters, and soon Sheila and her companions were filling their bags with the delectable delicacies. With their containers overflowing with freshly harvested scallops, the three adventurers decided to end their underwater excursion and begin their journey back to the safety of the shore. As they swam through the serene waters, their thoughts drifted to a warm shower and a delicious seafood feast. Suddenly, the peacefulness was shattered by an unexpected violent movement in the water. The three friends turned to face the disturbance, and their eyes widened in horror. An enormous form hurtled towards them from the depths of the sea, an ominous shadow looming over the trio. The closer it got, the more the reality of the situation became apparent. It was a 20-foot great white shark, its jaws agape, and its eyes locked on the three unsuspecting snorkelers. Suddenly, the predator lunged forward, its razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the dwindling sunlight. Sheila tried to evade the attack, but it was too late. Sheila's family watched in horror as the great white shark savagely attacked her. The assault was so sudden and ferocious that they were paralyzed with shock, unable to react in time to save her. The massive predator's razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws were like a monstrous machine, tearing into Sheila's body with unrelenting force. With one swift and devastating movement, it bit her in half, her body thrashing helplessly in the water. The sound of the attack was deafening, the water roiling and churning as the great white shark used its serrated teeth to slice through Sheila's skin, flesh, and bones like a hot knife through butter. The sheer force of the bite was beyond belief, and her family could only watch in horror as the shark continued to attack, its brutal power overwhelming their senses. Sheila's family was gripped with an unrelenting horror, unable to comprehend the tragedy that had befallen them. All that remained of Sheila was her headless torso, a grotesque and haunting sight that floated in the water like a macabre statue. The water was stained with her blood, mixed with the salt water, to create a sickening crimson hue. The family's collective scream pierced the air, a chilling cry that echoed across the bay and cut through the fishermen's hearts like a knife. The fishermen sprang into action, propelled by a sense of urgency and the desperate hope that they might still be able to help. But their efforts were in vain. By the time they arrived, Sheila was already gone, her lifeless form a testament to the savagery of the predator that had attacked her. As the family mourned their loss, the fishermen scanned the water, searching for any sign of the predator that had caused this tragedy. Their apprehension mounted when the shark reappeared, circling Sheila's remains like a hunter stalking its prey. With a violent burst of energy, the great white shark lunged at Sheila's remains with a ferocity that made the water churn and boil. The force of its attack sent a spray of frothy water and blood into the air, creating a macabre display that was equally terrifying and awe-inspiring. The shark's powerful jaws closed around what was left of Sheila's body, tearing through flesh and bone with ruthless efficiency. The water was alive with the thrashing of its massive body as it claimed its prey and retreated into the ocean's depths, leaving behind a trail of blood that seemed to glow like a twisted beacon in the sunlight. As the shark vanished from view, the water fell eerily silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation of what was to come. The fishermen and Sheila's family were left to stare in disbelief at the empty space where the predator had been, their minds struggling to comprehend the sheer brutality of the attack. All that remained was the sickening stench of blood and death that lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the primal power that ruled the mysterious and unfathomable depths of the sea, offering a cool and refreshing respite from the tropical heat. The rhythmic sounds of the waves crashing onto the shore was like a soothing melody that lulled the couple into tranquil bliss. Seagulls danced in the sky, their wingspan painting the blue horizon like brushstrokes on a canvas. The salty air filled their lungs, invigorating them with vitality. The beach was alive with the rhythm of life, a bustling hub of activity where people of all walks of life came together to enjoy the natural beauty surrounding them. Kali and his wife felt the scene in the underwater cave was eerie and gave Michelle an uneasy feeling. The dark waters and silence starkly contrasted with the vibrant colors and noises of the ocean floor, but she pressed on, hoping to find something worth filming. As Michelle ventured deeper into the cave, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The water was getting murkier, and she could barely see her hands before her face. Her heart raced as she felt a sudden disturbance in the water, causing her to stop in her tracks. Was she being followed? The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, and she could feel a tingle down her spine. She spun her light and camera toward the direction of the movement, and her heart pounded in her chest. The beam of her flashlight illuminated nothing but darkness and stirred up mud in the waters. Michelle's breath came out in quick, shallow gasps as she tried to steady her nerves. She slowly moved the camera and lighted around the cave, hoping to catch sight of whatever was lurking in the shadows. Just when she thought she was alone, she saw a flicker of movement in the distance. Her heart skipped a beat, and a knot formed in her stomach. She peered into the darkness, straining to see what was there. Was it a fish, a seal, or something much larger and more dangerous? Her pulse raced as she approached the source of the movement, her camera lens trained on the murky waters ahead. A chill ran down Michelle's spine as she peered into the murky depths. Suddenly, she spotted movement, a shadowy shape gliding closer and closer. Her eyes widened in horror as the massive form of a 16-foot great white shark emerged from the gloom, its razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. Michelle's heart pounded as she realized she was face to face with one of the ocean's most fearsome predators. She tried to back away slowly, but her feet refused to obey her commands. The shark approached, its jaws gaping wide, ready to strike. Michelle's grip on her camera tightened, but in her moment of terror, her fingers betrayed her, and the device slipped from her grasp, crashing to the ground with a gentle thud. As the camera's light flickered and illuminated her petrified expression, Michelle braced herself for the inevitable attack, praying she would survive the encounter. The great white shark launched itself at Michelle with lightning speed. She barely had time to register what was happening before it was upon her. The jaws of the massive predator snapped shut around her neck, swallowing her head whole in one brutal attack. The force of the shark's bite was immense, and Michelle's body was no match for its razor-sharp teeth. Michelle's camera captured the harrowing scene as the shark thrashed around, its massive frame causing the water to churn and roil. Michelle's initial reaction was to fight back, but her blows were weak and ineffective against the powerful predator. Blood poured from her wounds, mingling with the water and turning it a sickening shade of red. The shark showed no mercy as it mauled the helpless YouTuber. Its teeth tore into her flesh, shredding muscle and bone with ease. Michelle's screams were muffled by the water, but her agony was clear as day in the footage captured by the camera. The shark's eyes were wild with hunger and rage as it continued its attack, oblivious to the horror it was inflicting. With a sudden gut-wrenching force, the shark's jaws clamped down on Michelle's flesh, tearing it apart like tissue paper. Pain shot through her body as she tried to fight back, but it was useless. In a split second, the world around her faded to black. Silence hung heavy in the water as the shark continued its vicious assault. Michelle's body went limp, floating lifelessly as the predator tore into her flesh. With a sickening snap, her body was suddenly severed from her head, leaving a grotesque sight in its wake. The shark didn't stop there, though. It seemed to relish in the destruction it had wrought, devouring Michelle's mangled carcass with frenzied fervor. Water was like a shimmering siren, beckoning her to come and test her mettle against its towering, ferocious waves. Tina felt her heart pounding with fear and excitement, knowing that the next few hours would be the ultimate test of her surfing prowess. Tina's heart was a drumbeat of excitement as she waded into the ocean, the exhilaration of the moment making her feel alive. She took a deep breath, feeling the salty tang of the sea air filling her lungs, and set her sights on the horizon. The first few waves were a warm-up, and Tina expertly rode them with ease, her confidence growing with each passing moment. She felt invincible, at one with the water, and was determined to tackle the most challenging. A dark shape caught her eye, lurking beneath the water's surface. Tina's pulse pounded in her ears as she caught sight of the shadowy figure lurking beneath the waves. A sense of dread washed over her as she realized the danger that she was in. The creature's powerful form was unmistakable, a tiger shark, the ocean's apex predator. The shark's size alone was daunting, easily twice the length of her surfboard. Her body tensed as she tried to process the situation, but her mind raced with thoughts of escape. The slightest twitch could trigger the shark's instincts and lead to a fatal encounter. She forced herself to remain focused on the task, maintaining a calm facade as she navigated the turbulent waters. She couldn't let the shark sense her fear, but the danger was ever present, lurking just beneath the surface. Suddenly, Tina's darkest fears became a reality when the shark noticed her movement in the water. The shark launched its attack, catching her completely off guard. The force of the collision made her feel like a rag doll, powerless against the predator's sheer strength. Her body convulsed as the shark's powerful jaws sank deep into her leg, biting down with a force that made her bones feel like they were about to shatter. She gasped for air as the pain jolted through her body, feeling like 1,000 needles piercing her skin. The water around her turned red with blood, and she could feel the warmth of it as it mixed with the cool seawater. Her screams echoed through the ocean, but she knew it was useless. No one was close enough to hear her desperate pleas for help. She thrashed and kicked, trying to shake the shark off her leg, but it was useless. The creature has her in its grip and is determined to take her down. Tina's heart raced with terror as she struggled to fend off the ferocious beast. She could feel its jaws clamped tightly around her leg, crushing bone and tearing muscle with every shake of its massive head. Desperately, she swung her fist and thrashed her legs, hoping to land a blow that would make the creature loosen its grip. But the tiger shark was a formidable opponent, its body a sleek, muscular machine honed by millions of years of evolution to hunt and kill. Tina felt her lungs burning as she was dragged deeper and deeper into the inky depths, the cold water stealing her warmth and breath. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, and her body screamed with pain, but she refused to give up. She had to keep fighting and stay alive, no matter what. Tina's vision was clouding over as the darkness threatened to consume her. She was certain that this was the end, that she would be swallowed whole by the predator lurking in the depths. But just as her consciousness was slipping away, a flicker of light caught her eye. A distant figure was racing towards her, his boat carving through the waves like a knife through butter. Tina's heart surged with hope as she saw the fisherman, his face set in determination, charging towards her. She lifted her arms towards him with the last ounce of her strength, praying that he would see her. And he did. He was upon her in moments, and with a swift stroke of his oar, he hit the shark on the nose. The creature released its grip on Tina's leg and disappeared back into the murky depths, glinting in the sunlight. Edward's heart quickened as he tried to make sense of the chaotic scene unfolding before him. For a moment, he could only watch in stunned silence as the creatures raced past him, their movements desperate and frantic. But then his instincts kicked in, and he knew something was chasing them. Suddenly, a monstrous creature emerged from the depths, shattering the peace with its ominous presence. It was a great white shark, a behemoth of the deep. Measuring 18 feet in length, its razor-sharp teeth glistened menacingly in the sunlight as it lunged toward Edward with terrifying speed. The attack was so sudden and unexpected that Edward barely had time to react. He tried to dodge the shark's massive jaws, but it was too late. With an awe-inspiring and terrifying ferocity, the predator sank its teeth into Edward's torso, its powerful jaws clamping down with deadly force. As the jaws of the great white shark clamped down on Edward's body, the weight of the creature's primal strength was overwhelming. Its massive serrated teeth bore down on him with crushing force. But thankfully, Edward had one last line of defense: a lead vest. The vest had been a wise decision, a crucial piece of equipment that had saved his life. But even with his protection, Edward could still feel the force of the shark's bite, as if its immense power was seeping through every crevice of the vest and into his body. He was being squeezed with the pressure of an unimaginable force, and the pain was almost too much to bear. In the moment's chaos, Edward knew he had to act quickly, as the great white shark thrashed him like a rag doll, mistaking him for its prey. Its powerful jaws were still locked onto him, and the pain was excruciating. Desperate to escape the creature's grip, Edward began to fight back with every ounce of strength he had left. He punched the shark repeatedly, his fists connecting with its skin's rough sandpapery texture, but it seemed to have no effect. Refusing to give up, Edward changed tactics, using all his strength to push against the shark's massive jaws, trying to pry them apart in hopes that it would release him. But the creature was too powerful, and its grip was unyielding. As the seconds ticked by, Edward began to lose hope. The pain was becoming unbearable, and he could feel his body starting to shut down. But then, with inspiration, he remembered something he had read about in a book. Taking a deep breath, Edward summoned all of his strength and drove his fingers into the shark's eyes with all the force he could muster. The creature recoiled in pain and surprise, and its jaws loosened enough for Edward to wriggle free. The moment the shark released him, Edward sprang into action, his heart pounding with adrenaline and fear. He swam upwards as fast as he could, his arms and legs thrashing through the water with desperate urgency. Every fiber of his being was focused on escaping the predator that had just tried to claim his life. As he broke the surface, gasping for air and struggling to stay afloat, Edward looked around frantically, half expecting to see the shark again bearing down on him. But to his relief, there was no sign of the creature, and he knew that he had to act fast to get out of the water before it could attack again. As Edward collapsed onto the boat, gasping for breath and feeling his injury's pain, he knew he had been lucky to survive. He could feel the puncture marks and dents on his lead vest where the shark's teeth had come down, and he knew that his ribs were likely broken in several places. Life vest on and clinging onto floating plane debris. The sound of the crashing waves was deafening, but it was nothing compared to the horror that was about to unfold. Elisa managed to get on top of one of the floating rafts from the plane. She could see other passengers floating lifelessly on the surface. The life vests didn't do anything to save them from the impact of the crash. She could see mangled carcasses floating lifelessly past her, some burnt, while some simply had limbs and other body parts missing due to the impact. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. In the quiet of the sea, Elisa noticed several fins gliding in the surface. She already knew what they were, and she watched in horror as the floating carcasses disappeared one by one with a snap from these predators from the deep. The attacking predators were bull sharks, common in the Gulf of Thailand. These creatures were massive and ruthless, and they were hungry. Elisa was alone at sea with floating carcasses serving like food for the sharks around the area. One shark swam dangerously close to her, and Elisa thought that the shark was after her. But in a violent snap, the creature, a 14-foot bull shark, leapt like a torpedo from the waters and snapped at a floating, mangled carcass near Elisa's floating raft. The attack was sickening, with a bone-chilling crunch. The shark latched onto the lifeless body, swallowing it from head to torso before splashing back in the water, dragging its food into the depths of the ocean. Elisa had never seen a shark feeding frenzy before. 5 to 10 sharks were constantly roaming the area, devouring any dead carcass that they saw floating in the water. Elisa couldn't help but cry as she thought about her family. She knew that the rest of her family were already dead now, or eaten by these crazed predators. The sun was beating down on Elisa, and she felt like she was being cooked alive under the scorching heat. She was thirsty. Her body was submerged in the water. It wasn't the coolest of all waters, but it was better than the blazing heat on the raft. As the blistering sun beat down on Elisa's exposed skin, she felt the salt water's cool embrace wash over her submerged body. Suddenly, a dark fin cut through the surface, silently gliding towards her like a menacing specter from the abyss. Elisa's heart pounded in her chest, her panicked mind already aware of the threat that loomed beneath. She tried to hoist herself up onto the raft, but her fear paralyzed her, rendering her immobile. The fin disappeared from sight, but Elisa knew that the danger was still there, lurking just beneath her. And then, with no warning, she felt a sharp, searing pain as the jaws of a monstrous shark clamped down on her leg, crushing bone and flesh alike. She cried out in agony as the excruciating pain spread throughout her body. The predator latched onto Elisa's leg with its razor-sharp teeth and its powerful jaws. The shark was pulling on Elisa's leg, dragging her underwater. Elisa could feel the water filling her lungs as she tried to scream for help. She thrashed around, trying to escape from the shark's grip, but it was too strong. With a sudden, violent pull, the beast yanked Elisa's body from the safety of the raft, sending her hurtling through the water like a rag doll in a hurricane. The force of the attack was overwhelming, and Elisa felt herself spinning out of control, completely at the mercy of the rampaging shark. As she was pulled deeper into the water, Elisa's vision began to fade, and she knew she was going to die. She thought of her family and the life she would have had if they had survived. She struggled to stay conscious, scattered across the vast ocean, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that occurred. For Elisa Shaw, her story remained untold. The terror that she endured in the last minutes of her life was known only to the merciless ocean and the relentless predators that roamed its depths. No one could ever imagine the fear and despair that gripped her as she fought for her life, in the middle of the sea, surrounded by hungry sharks and the lifeless bodies of her fellow passengers. Her screams and cries for help were drowned out by the relentless crashing waves, and her fate was sealed as the rampaging shark saw a colossal tiger shark with its razor-sharp teeth sinking into her calf. Fear quickly consumed her as the predator's powerful jaws clamped down tighter, refusing to let go. Anna's body jolted as the shark started to thrash around, pulling her deeper and deeper into the water, and her screams were muffled by the salty seawater. The crushing sensation of the shark's grip was overwhelming, tearing her flesh and bones apart. Anna's blood-curdling screams echoed through the clear blue waters as the massive tiger shark continued to drag her deeper and deeper into the abyss. Her friends stood paralyzed on the shore, their hearts pounding with fear and desperation as they scanned the vast expanse of the ocean for any sign of help. The nearest lifeguard station was miles away, leaving them little hope for a quick rescue. Time was running out, and they knew they had to act fast to save Anna's life. Anna's friend bravely leaped into the water, wielding a surfboard like a shield against the massive predator. But the tiger shark was relentless, its beady eyes fixed on its prey. Its jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth clamped onto Anna's flesh, causing her to scream in agony. The more Anna struggled, the harder the shark pulled her deeper and deeper into the dark, murky depths of the ocean. Her energy was draining fast, and with each passing moment, she felt like she was losing the battle against the ferocious beast. The thought of never seeing her loved ones again filled her with dread, and she feared that her life was slipping away before her eyes. As Anna's vision began to blur and her hope began to fade, she saw a speck on the horizon. As the object grew closer, it became clear that it was a small boat, manned by a group of rugged-looking men. The boat bounced and rocked on the waves as it approached, and Anna's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and hope. As the boat grew closer, she could see that the men were Brazilians, their weathered faces lined with years of experience on the open sea. With a sense of urgency, the fishermen leapt into action, their hands moving quickly and purposefully as they prepared to take on the deadly predator. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, the fishermen fought tooth and nail against the massive tiger shark. The creature's jaws seemed impenetrable, its grip unyielding. Anna's friends watched in horror from the shore, praying for a miracle. The struggle seemed to last an eternity, but finally, with one last desperate push, Damon couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as he approached the tank, the water inside churning and frothing with power. Damon couldn't tear his gaze away from the sharks as he worked, mesmerized by their fluid movements and powerful bodies. One day, as he finished scrubbing the walls of the tank, a chill ran down his spine. Something was off. The great white in particular was acting erratic, thrashing around in the water, its movements frenzied and unpredictable. Damon's heart pounded in his chest as the shark circled closer and closer to him, its dead black eyes seeming to bore into his soul. He could feel the weight of the predator's stare on him, and a sense of dread settled in the pit of his stomach. Something was definitely wrong, and Damon knew that he was in danger. Panic set in as Damon felt the great white's agitation intensify. He could sense the predator's growing hostility, and he knew that he needed to get out of the tank fast. With his heart hammering in his chest, Damon slowly moved towards the ladder, every movement calculated and deliberate. But just as he was about to make his escape, the shark exploded into a frenzy, its massive jaws gaping open, like a portal to hell. Damon froze in terror as the beast hurtled towards him, teeth glinting in the dim light. He could feel the rush of water as the shark closed in, its savage hunger sending shivers down his spine. Desperation took hold of Damon as he tried to flee, but the great white was like a torpedo in the water, closing in on him with lightning speed. In a split second, the shark's massive jaws clamped down on Damon's leg, sending searing pain through his body. He could feel the sharp teeth piercing his flesh, tearing through muscle and sinew with ease. The pressure was immense as the shark dragged him down to the bottom of the tank, its massive body overpowering him. The water was murky with blood, and Damon's vision blurred as he fought to stay conscious. He knew that he was no match for the relentless predator, and he could feel his strength slipping away. But something deep within him refused to give up. He clawed his way back towards the surface, his body racked with agony, but his will to survive overpowering the pain. In that moment, Damon knew that he had to fight with everything he had if he wanted to make it out of the tank alive. Panic flooded Damon's mind as he struggled to find a way out of the nightmarish situation. In a moment of clarity, he remembered the emergency button on the side of the tank. With his heart pounding in his chest, he reached out and slammed his hand on the button, hoping against all hope that someone would hear the alarm and come to his aid. But as he waited for the sound of approaching footsteps, a sinking feeling settled in the pit of his stomach. The great white refused to let go of its prey, its jaws clamped shut with deadly force, tearing Damon's flesh and bones. Damon's screams were muffled by the water as he felt his strength began to ebb away. He could feel his vision dimming as the shark continued to drag him down, and he knew that he was in grave danger. As seconds ticked by, Damon was filled with a sense of despair. As Damon struggled to stay conscious, he heard a sudden splash and the sound of urgent voices above him. He looked up to see a team of rescuers armed with dart tranquilizer guns, their faces grim and determined. The great white had clamped its jaws around Damon's leg, its massive body thrashing back and forth with savage force. Damon felt like he was drowning in the chaos of the attack, his world reduced to the pain in his leg and the jaws that seemed like they would never let go. The researchers fired their tranquilizer darts, aiming with deadly accuracy as the shark continued to circle and snap. It was a race against excitement. The rest of the family and friends were already reveling in the joys of the beach, soaking up the sun and frolicking in the surf. With their shared love for surfing, Kelsey and Chris knew they had to get in on the action. It was barely 10 in the morning, and they couldn't wait to catch some waves before lunch. As they paddled out to the waves, the thrill of anticipation coursed through their veins. The ocean was alive, with the waves breaking the surf in a constant rhythm, like a heartbeat that echoed the universe's pulse. They felt as if they were part of a grand symphony, riding the waves in perfect harmony with the ocean. The wind was in their hair, the sun on their backs, and the salt water refreshing their skin. They laughed, shouted, and whooped joyfully as they rode the waves skillfully and gracefully. But even the most exhilarating experiences must end. And after a while, Kelsey and Chris felt the fatigue setting in. They knew it was time to take a breather, and they rested on their surfboards, bobbing gently on the waves. As Kelsey and Chris lay on their backs on their surfboards, they chatted animatedly about their plans for the night ahead. The sky was a canvas of vivid hues, with the sun slowly setting on the horizon. The ocean was tranquil, a sea of tranquility that mirrored their inner peace. But suddenly, the serenity was shattered by a blood-curdling scream that echoed across the water. Chris whipped his head around, his heart racing with fear and anxiety. What he saw made his blood run cold. An 18-foot great white shark was latched onto Kelsey's leg, its razor-sharp teeth tearing through flesh and bone. She held onto her surfboard for dear life, her face twisted in agony and terror. Chris's heart pounded as he paddled towards Kelsey, his mind racing with fear and adrenaline. The sight before him was a nightmare come to life. The massive great white shark was thrashing and mauling Kelsey in the water, its jaws locked onto her leg like an iron grip. The water around them was churning, a maelstrom of chaos and violence. Chris knew he had to act fast to save his daughter's life. He paddled with all his strength, his muscles burning with the effort as he closed in on Kelsey and the shark. But then, a swift snap. The shark tore Kelsey's leg off, its razor-sharp teeth slicing through flesh and bone like butter. The water around them turned a deep, dark red, a horrifying mix of salt water and blood. Chris's heart was pounding, his body shaking with adrenaline as he swam towards Kelsey.